Well, since I don't seem to be able to catch a fish on this spinnerbait, I'm gonna keep fishing and talk about it. My name is Gene Jensen with BassResource.com, and a spinnerbait is an absolutely amazing piece of equipment that you can, or a tool that you can use to really load the boat with fish when they're in the mood to chase. I'm still trying to figure out today whether they are or aren't. I haven't gotten a single bite on this, but I really wanted to talk about it because this is, you know, there's so many different ways you can fish it. It's a very versatile bait. I wouldn't say it's snag proof, but it's pretty darn close. I know when I'm talking about spinnerbaits, I'm talking about the safety pin type spinnerbaits, as they call it, not the inlines, not the tail spins, just the safety pin type is what the type I'm talking about today. I've got a little Kitech swim bait on there just to make it bigger. The bait fish right now in this lake are pretty good size, so I wanted to make my spinnerbait bigger. What are some of the things you can do to a spinnerbait to make it catch fish? First thing is if I don't have a big trailer on like this, I put a trailer hook on it. I almost always have a trailer hook on it, and I haven't had any short strikes today because I haven't had any strikes at all. So if I ever get a short strike, I'll immediately pull out a trailer hook and put it on there. But you know, your blade combinations are pretty much endless. You've got Colorado blades, you've got Indiana blades, you've got willow leaf blades. The Colorado blades are the round ones, give off a lot of vibration. You use those in muddy water, very low, low visibility for the bass, so their lateral line can pick up that vibration. I use them a lot when I'm yo-yoing and when I'm letting it helicopter down. They helicopter really good. The other one is an Indiana blade, which is in between the Colorado blade and the willow leaf. It's a little bit longer. It's got some vibration. Still, it's a muddy water blade. Also, helicopter's pretty good. The one I use 90% of the time, or 99% of the time, would be a willow leaf blade. And a willow leaf blade is, looks just like a willow leaf. This is kind of a small one, but it looks just like a willow leaf. And I typically fish them in silver. Gold is good in muddy water, low light conditions, things like that, when you don't need a whole lot of flash. Well, I could go on and on about that. It's just, size is, I pick the size depending on some of the size of the bait fish, or how much vibration I want, or how fast I want to work it. A smaller bait or smaller bladed spinnerbait is not going to wear you out. So, right now I'm burning the bank pretty fast, so I went with a smaller, I think this is a size 4 blade. Oh, let's see. What are the different ways you can fish these? Well, they're pretty versatile. It's basically a crankbait. It can be fished like a jig. It can be fished tons and tons of different ways. There's one right there. Not a big one, but I caught one on a spinnerbait. It's been a tough morning. I didn't think they'd bite one, but okay. Like I was saying, there's several different ways to fish a spinnerbait. Okay, you can just throw it out and wind it back in. You can, like what I was doing right there, I let it sink down to the bottom just a little bit. I'm in 3.5 feet of water, so it doesn't take long to get to the bottom. And I was slow rolling it. Great way to catch a bass in the wintertime. These are the type of spinnerbaits you can use all year long. They're great around cover. But I'm slow rolling it in, and I'm just kind of ticking the bottom. Is all I was doing, and he hammered it. One way well, let's talk about the typical ways people fish them first. Typical way is you just cast it out around cover and you reel it back in. Cast it out and reel it in. Well, some of the things I do to change that up is when I'm casting out and reeling it in, I'll give my rod a little pop. And what that does is it causes that skirt to flare out. So if there's a bass following it or anything like that, it'll cause that bass to strike on it, to give it a reaction strike. So I'm just going to reel it in and pop. You know, really good spinnerbaits are really good around wood and cover and grass, and tend to get, depending on the type of grass, tend to get kind of picked up in the, kind of pick up some grass sometimes. You got to keep them clean. You can use any kind of trailer for it. I like little grubs. I like the straight tail trailers they're called spinnerbait trailers. Another way to fish it is you yo-yo it. You throw it out and let it sink to the bottom. And then you just kind of lift your rod up. Kind of like you're fishing a Carolina rig, but a little faster. Just lift your rod up. What you're doing is you're bringing it up and letting it flutter down. It's better to do this with a Colorado blade. You know, you just kind of bring it up and let it flutter back down. Another way is, especially for spotted bass and smallmouth, I love to do this with spotted bass around timber and things like that. You'll throw it out, and I don't know if I can, I know I can't show this on video. You throw it out and then you reel it back really fast, but you don't want your blades to break the surface. You want your blades to wake, to make a little wake behind it without breaking the surface. And it's called waking a spinnerbait. But it really, it'll bring freaking smallmouth out of, or a spotted bass out of, you know, 30, 40 foot of water sometime. Now, to tune a spinnerbait, this one's kind of off kilter a little bit. You want to make sure that the arm is in line with the hook. The whole arm is in line with the hook. So I've got to turn it this way to do it my way, and it's off kilter just a hair. And I just kind of rotate it, tweak it just a little, get the blade out of the way. That's good. You know, when you get bit when a bass bites it, a lot of times it'll straighten it out a little bit. A really good spinnerbait is one with a thin wire, but the only problem is it only lasts a few fish. So you just gotta understand that, you know, when you get, like, this is a spinnerbait made by Greenfish Tackle, and I want a light wire spinnerbait, or they call it piano wire spinnerbait, but I know it's only going to last, you know, 10 or 15 small fish, or, you know, 15 to 20, maybe 30 small fish, and the big fish, you know, 5 or 6 or 7 really big fish. A lot of times that lasts longer than that. It all depends, but you know, big fish, big bass will tear up just about any spinnerbait. But your trade-off is the light wire gives off more vibration. Really, there's a huge difference in having a light wire spinnerbait for me. But this one, being that I'm friends with Greenfish Tackle, I can go in and say, you know, I want 4, 5, 6 of these, 6 of, you know, and so on and so forth, and tell them exactly the blade combinations I want. And they typically can make them up for me pretty quick. So just a little perk or advantage that I have living close to those guys. Let me think. All right, one way that I fish it that catches big fish, you know, if I had had one way to choose, it would be to fish it just like I fish a jig. Throw it out, let it sink to the bottom, and drag it. And drag it. People are like, oh, but the blade's not spinning. The blade doesn't have to spin, okay? Trust me on this. Go out. If you're fishing a point or fishing structure, not so much cover, it gets hung up in the big rocks, it gets hung up in the timber and stuff like that when you're doing this. But when you're fishing like a pea gravel point or a clay bank or a clay point, stuff like that, just fish it like a jig and watch what happens. Oh man, if there's a big fish in the area, they bite. It's just something they've never seen before. And pretty cool little way of catching them on a spinnerbait that people just don't think about. Real quick story, my best friend borrowed a spinnerbait from me once and went out to this lake that's known for big fish. And it was early spring. I don't even call it spring, it was more like winter. The water temperature was still really cold. It probably had snowed, you know, a week or two before, so it was a really cold day. And he went over to a stump flat in about 8 feet of water, and he took that spinnerbait, and this is when I learned that this would work, and he just took it and drug it just like a jig and caught a 8.5 pound, probably a 9 pound bass. And you know, we have a rule that if you borrow a bait and catch a big fish on it, it's yours. So he now is the proud owner of a nice spinnerbait. He wouldn't let me borrow his boat, or he wouldn't let me have his boat after I borrowed it and caught my personal best. Now spinnerbait makes a pretty good search bait. It's probably one of the best search baits. I mean, you can turn the trolling motor up on high. I wouldn't say on high, this would be going too fast for me. But turn the trolling motor up and you just cover a lot of water and use it to find fish. You don't necessarily need to get a bite, but you want to look for fish following it. You want to look for fish, you know, swinging at it and so on and so forth, just to let you know that there's fish in the area. And makes a really, really good search bait. It's one of the, you know, one of the ones I pull out, that or square bill, when I'm searching. And once you find them, you just slow down and drag something, hop something, swim something, you know, figure it out, figure them out from there. It's a great way to use a spinnerbait. Another thing you got to remember is when you're fishing timber, cover, stuff like that, you know, it's okay to throw right in the middle of the timber and pull it through. But once if you hit something, hit like the stick or whatever else, pause for a second, let it flutter down on the other side of the stick. Not flutter all the way to the bottom, just let it flutter down just a few inches and then keep reeling. A lot of times you'll get bit on that fall right over top of that stick, and you don't want to pull it away from the fish before he gets a chance to put it in its mouth. Perfect conditions for a spinnerbait. A little bit of wind on the water. One of the things I need to mention is that a spinnerbait it works. It works best in low light conditions or in low visibility conditions. Right now I got really clear water, but I don't have any sun on the water, so that's why I feel like it's a good bait for right now. Sun hits the water, the thing you want is you want a little bit of chop, you want a little bit of a ripple on the water, just like there is right now. So right now I've got pretty much ideal conditions. The only thing missing is bass that are willing to chase a spinnerbait or willing to grab a spinnerbait. So, you know, I'm just trying to figure out what mood they're in. But you want those low light conditions. You don't want the bass to get a really good look at your spinnerbait. You just want it to look like bait fish, you know, swimming under the surface or swimming in the water. When I make a cast out, I usually let it sink just out of sight. I don't like to see the spinnerbait. For some reason, I get more bites when it's down a little bit deeper, you know, just, you know, a foot or so out of sight. Just like that. Let's get him in here. Not a bad fish at all. That's a spinnerbait fish for you. Alright guys, well, like I always say, visit bassresource.com for the answer to all your questions about bass fishing. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Check out my other videos. I can honestly say you'll become a better fisherman if you watch my videos. Hit the like button on this video if you like it. So keep your lines wet, get on the water, enjoy what we have here, enjoy the world of fishing, and have a great day.